Some of us, when we make that commitment, you know, the deal lasts maybe 60 years. Imagine saying, yes, I do, or jumping over the broomstick, or whatever you do, and that committing you to 150 plus. You get less for killing someone. Would we make divorce compulsory after 30 years just to keep the murder rate down? Now, we laugh, but that whole group, services for the elderly, we think is going to be one of the biggest growth markets. Jobs, services, advice, psychological advice, foods to keep them healthy, replacement organs, huge growth market. We also know that, I talked earlier about the emerging markets, there is a phenomenal rate of growth of new businesses coming out of those markets. This was a piece of work done by BCG, who identified 100 companies coming out of the emerging markets, who between 2000 and 2009, their average turnover growth was 18% and their average profit growth was 18% every year. Sorry, the average profitability was 18%. These people are expected by 2020 to have a turnover of $8 trillion. That will make their turnover bigger than the whole S&P 500. So one of the things I would encourage you to do if you're an entrepreneur is to identify some of these businesses in whichever sector you serve and get close to them. Because as they're growing, to be a supplier to a growing business is a very easy way to grow, particularly if you get the service right. Rather than competing for the already heavily competed existing players, where everybody's trying to serve them, go after the new players. Go after the emerging players, do the deals, get close to them, learn with them, grow with them. We also know that pretty much every industry is going to have to reinvent itself in the next 10 years. I'll give you one example. Food industry. Today, food demand is growing at more than 4%. As the world gets richer, then demand will grow even faster. Food supply is growing at less than 2%. How do we service that? One idea is that we have vertical farms. If you look at the example on your right, this is a farm at a zoo in the UK. It produces 3 times more food than if you just farm the land it sits on. It uses half of the energy you would normally use to produce that much food and 5% of the water you would normally use. People are saying, actually, this is a brilliant model. We can put these in the middle of cities. So what you see on the left is just one example of a vertical farm. All over the world now, people are building these vertical farms to serve markets. And it means your farms can be right in the middle of a city rather than miles away or kilometers away. Every single industry in the world is going to have that kind of radical rethink about how it does business. We're also going to see a whole range of new business models emerge for how we actually sell our product. What we know is, for example, there's this choice now between free or fantastic. If you look in the mobile phone world, you know, Apple have cornered the fantastic end. They have a product that we all love, we pay a premium for. And the other end, you've got Nokia. Nokia believe their product is technically better. We don't care. You know, we have basically punished Nokia, and so now they cannot manufacture as cheaply as their Chinese competitors can sell the product. So Nokia are in this bind now where they have to find ways of giving the product away and then making money behind it. Now, some people say, well, apps is the way to do that. But again, Apple have cornered the market in apps. 300,000 apps written for them. How much of those apps in total cost Apple to have developed? 300,000 apps? 0, someone said. Absolutely. A 0 cost of product development. Every time someone sells an app, they get 30%. The most profitable apps are free because the advertising, the upsell inside them generates the revenue. Apple get a share of that. So free is actually a very powerful business model. When you're thinking about what business model you need for your business going forward, don't just think about being paid. Free may be an interesting option. Clearly you need venture capital to help you make that happen, but think about what the right business model is for your business. One I really like is this auction model. Basically, when these companies sell a product, they auction it. Each time I bid, I pay 50 cents or 75 cents to make my bid, and the price goes up 1 cent. So these guys, this product, the Swoopo sold an iPad. The selling price was about $235. So the customer got a bargain, but these guys got $17,000 for it. On average, they are making between $3,000 and $5,000 for selling an iPad, $1,500 for selling an iPhone. And the people buying them are getting a huge bargain as well. These auction models work very, very smartly, and they're a great way of selling spare capacity. Hotels are using them out. All sorts of people are using these models. Think about what the business model is. Spend some time researching different business models for how you can bring your product to market. You don't just have to have the standard transactional one. And one of the biggest things to think about is how our view of assets is changing. Today, we no longer need to own something to use it. If you look in London, we have this bicycle scheme where they're provided by one of the banks. You pay to rent them by the hour. Same with cars now, these car sharing schemes. You no longer own your car, you just rent it. We're going to see that more and more with assets. You see it with cloud computing, exactly that. The company doesn't own its physical infrastructure, it just rents it. And the mobile phone is also changing the whole way in which people are shaping the world. Now more smartphones are sold than laptops. The mobile phone is becoming the main means of access to the internet. We have over 4 billion people have mobile phones now, going up to 5 billion. It is the first universal piece of technology. Today, with apps, I can configure the world to do what I want when I want it. It shapes my world, it shapes my behavior. I make the world look the way I want it through my apps. It's a great way of reaching customers, getting out there, understanding it. But we also know that what's coming next changes what we can do with the mobile phone. If you look at the next generation of mobile phones, pull-out screens, 3D pop-up displays, this is all coming in the next couple of years. So how you communicate your product. Imagine you have a complex piece of machinery, or you're in real estate, or you're a hotel, and you're trying to show your product, your offering to customers. Yes, you can show them video, yes, you can show them pictures, but imagine showing them a 3D tour on your phone. Literally being able to show them around the property, in and outside the machinery, showing them how it works just on your phone. Capturing the attention and the imagination. This stuff is coming. Thinking about how you might make use of these technologies. We also know that you're going to get laptops with 3D projection very soon, and you won't need those silly glasses to watch them. We also know that the data explosion, huge growth in data, is going to create a huge opportunity in terms of generating insight, new tools. So if you're in the information management business, I know reading the profile, some of you are in that marketplace, creating tools or services, how you analyze massive amounts of data, how you extract knowledge. The best example of that I saw was just before the World Cup final. The Dutch football team commissioned a Spanish professor, interesting enough, from London School of Economics, to analyze every penalty ever taken by the entire Spanish squad, and every penalty ever faced by all the Spanish goalkeepers. And to say, not only look at what happened, you know, which way did they kick the ball, did they score, which way did they dive when they saved, but to look at what had happened before, so previous penalties in a penalty shootout, so you knew the patterns. So the Spanish professor, it was interesting that the Spanish professor did it against his own team, but he gave them a dossier that said, for example, Casillas, the Spanish lead goalkeeper, if you kick the ball to his right, you have a 64% chance of scoring. If you kick the ball to his left, you have an 84% chance of scoring. Now, it doesn't matter how stupid you are if you're a Dutch player, you know, or how tired you are, you just think Casillas left, yeah? You know, very simple instruction, you've got more chance. Luckily for, you know, the game, in a sense, the Spanish won without penalties. But that kind of insight into data is changing business behavior, I think, in a really interesting way. Predictive analytics, tools, services that help people make sense of massive amounts of data, manage massive amounts of data, look after what's called your digital footprint all over the internet. Those things are going to become more and more valuable over time. We also know that everything, whether it's my shirt, my shoes, my car, my phone, will have a digital signature. It will have an IP address. Connecting those things, bringing in the data, managing services when everything is connected, again, is going to be a huge growth market. And the innovation, I think, a lot of it comes from the edge. It doesn't come from big corporations. It comes from startups, small businesses that have ideas, that grow them and then take them to big businesses to get them rolled out. You've all seen augmented reality, this idea of overlaying digital information on the real world. The best example I've seen is the one that you've got now for Google goggles, where you can put your phone over a building and it gives you information. You go to the Brandenburg Gate in Berlin, I put my phone over the gate and it shows me where the Berlin Wall would have been. Then it shows me a video. So as I roll round, I can actually see the wall, and I can see where it would have been. People are developing them for the pyramid, so you could see what life would have been like in a pyramid in Egypt. The opportunity presented by augmented reality to create interesting applications, and for those of you in the tech markets, just think about travel, tourism, manufacturing, for service roles, huge opportunities again in this market. And then, there are a whole range of other display devices that will change the way we interact with technology. So, for example, haptic interfaces. Today with Microsoft with Nintendo Wii or Kinect, you control a computer basically by moving your hand. Exactly the same we'll start to see as we walk around. We will have pop-up screens and gesture interfaces. So as you walk around, if you see someone wearing something that you like, you'll point to it. It'll tell you the price, where it's from, the colors, the sizes, order instantly. Clearly, for the women in the room, this isn't important. For us men, we take a lot of, pay a lot of attention to fashion. Touchable holographs, again, how you display information, everything becoming a display service. Just think about how people will be consuming technology and consuming information and how you might present that stuff. And then if you think about, well, what's coming next? Which are the industries that might grow? Now, you may not be in the industry, but you may be providing services or tools or technologies or people that could work in those industries or support those industries. And again, the point I would make is getting in early with a growth industry, growing with them, providing superior service, they will want to stay with the partners that have helped them grow. And we see that a lot. We've seen businesses that have grown on the back of other companies because they've been a good service provider that can be trusted. Being trusted is key in a complex world. I'll give you a few markets. Green buildings. Everyone's talking about new buildings, but most of the construction that will happen is actually refurbishment of existing buildings to improve their environmental performance. So anything, whether it's information products or technologies or materials that can go into helping green a building, anything to do with infrastructure. $35 trillion being spent on that. Airports are a classic example of this. Just in India and China alone, over 150 new airports being built. So anything you've got, information products, facilities, tools, techniques, or thinking about how your products can be used in these markets is worth thinking about. Education. Today, the average Indian gets 8 years of education. The average German gets 15. What we know is there's a huge opportunity in transforming the way education is delivered. So products and services that enable us to take education all over the world. Healthcare the same. Most parts of the world do not have a doctor readily available to them. How do we take good quality healthcare where it might be being delivered by the local garage mechanic who's also the priest and the chef in the restaurant because they don't have anything else. And the only way they can do the operation is via video. Thinking about services, tools, techniques that take healthcare out to those markets. Green transport. Today, green transport has been slow to take off because most green cars look something like that. And you and I grew up with a cultural view of what a car was. A car did not look like our desk with 4 wheels on it. Or a box in which our computer came with wheels on it. We didn't want that as our car. This was a cartoon, not what you drove.